next up, we're going to talk about Trayvon Martin, our last of our topics of today. I know we've talked, if you've been watching us for the beginning, you've been around for a while now. We've been talking away.
Yeah.
But it's been a pretty good show so far. But we're going to talk a little bit about Trayvon Martin. And I know I haven't been keeping up with the updates as much as probably as you have. But I know that his wife just got arrested for perjury. George Zimmerman's wife just got arrested for perjury because when they were setting George Zimmerman's bail, they asked if they had any assets or money, and she said they did not. She did not know of any. But he set up a website for which people could donate money to him that were on his side, and he raised whatever amount it was. But apparently they had a conversation and she was speaking in code, and he said, how much money do we have? And she said $154. And apparently that was code for $154,000. And she didn't tell the authorities under oath, the court under oath. So now they put a charge on her for perjury, and she could get up to a $5,000 fine.
And 5 years in prison.
5 years in prison, which is unlikely that she would get that much.
Well, up to 5 years.
But she could get up to. So what's the latest on the Trayvon Martin case?
Well, like you said, Shelly Zimmerman, she's 25, and her husband, George Zimmerman, like you said, they misled the courts about their finances. That came from those donations. They actually had, she failed to state that they had $135,000 from donors all over the world. But it's like, how stupid are you to say that you didn't get any money and you have a lack of money when, like you said, when you have a website, which is a public forum for people to show you their support, write their posts, see the posts Zimmerman and all his other colleagues put up there. And it's a place for people to donate money. It's a public forum. What makes you think the courts aren't going to notice that or even look at that? And
especially with a high-profile case like this,
right.
I think people are watching even more closely.
And that takes away from Zimmerman's accountability. I guess he's, like you said, they talked in code. He told his wife not to tell the judge about the monies that they had gotten and collected. And that affects his credibility to the extreme. And I'm glad that it's working out bad for him because he deserves it, I feel. He's actually going to be taking the stand. Well, it looks like he'll be taking the stand in his own defense to give his self-defense position on what happened that night.
So he's going to convey his own testimony.
Right.
Has how you feel about this case changed at all since you first started hearing about it?
Well, my thoughts about the case and my feelings about it hasn't changed, but I'm just a little skeptical about the witnesses because even some of their testimonies are changing, and it's like, to me, the truth should always remain the same. Why are you changing around your story? I mean, you should be kicked to the curb if you're a witness who isn't strong enough to keep the story the same.
But don't you think with things like this, it gets confusing from what the truth is and what you think happened, and then it starts to get all mixed up because you're hearing things people are telling you. But I think that does happen. And
it did. One of the witnesses even said that due to all the media, what she's hearing on the news, on the radio, and the newspaper, what she's reading, it's affecting her judgment on what happened.
Right, and you have your friend telling you this, and your friend telling you that, and it's like I think you have to sit down and say, okay, let me clear my head, let me pretend like I haven't heard anything, and let me write down what I saw, only the facts of what I saw.
And you've got to be strong-minded enough.
Yeah.
And the truth, again, should
never change. But I mean, it's difficult if you're not in those shoes. It's difficult, especially being a witness like that. If you're not in those shoes, then it's a difficult thing.
I mean, for some,
well, I mean, there is a lot of pressure. You know what I mean? You have pressure from both sides. You have people saying that are on George Zimmerman's side. You have people that are on Trayvon Martin's side. You know, no matter what, somebody's going to be dissatisfied with what you're saying. You know, if you're on like George Zimmerman's side, you could have like the Black Panthers coming after you or something, you know what I mean? And if you're, you know, so either way, it's like a catch-22.
But still, like, I understand if there's a lot of pressure and you can get confused, but at the same time, I stand by the belief that the truth always remains the same. When it's the truth, you have nothing to remember. And why should your outside influences or outside factors like getting in the way of you knowing who was on top and who wasn't? I mean, come on.
I mean, it can. I think if you're not really sure of how a situation
then
went,
you should not be a witness.
I agree. And I would make a terrible witness. And I'll tell you why. Because I'm terrible at explaining what just happened when something happens. I'm just terrible at, you know, putting it together. And I may mix up a thing or two. Now you guys are going to think I'm a liar when I'm on the show, but no, I'm not. But, you know, I think it's tough when it comes to something because, you know, like recalling, and then you sort of, I feel like you fill in the blanks a little bit unconsciously without really realizing that you're filling in the blanks. I mean, I think it's tough when you're in that situation, and it's hard for me to judge a witness, and I think it's tough to even go by witnesses. You really have to just listen to what everybody says and then say, okay, if 5 people said this, then that most likely happened this way.